want to come back there, but fucking hanging out with Camden at the end. I can't even fucking say it.
What up? Welcome back to Lockdown Universe, home of the bizarre, peculiar, and unheard of stories of UFO legends and paranormal lore. Welcome back. Happy to be back. Hopefully you guys are doing awesome and taking care of yourselves. Welcome back to another wild and wacky Lockdown Universe. So, yeah, you might have noticed that we've got a few podcast presentations when you're looking at Lockdown Universe on Spotify. It's showing up as Lockdown Universe, but it's only showing up as one episode right now, and that episode actually was like a test episode. It wasn't even a full episode. To get all of the other episodes, the previous episodes, moved over from Podbean. So currently I'm moving them over from Podbean. You can still listen to them wherever you listen to podcasts, but they're like in the process of being moved over from Podbean, which hosts them and puts them out on like iTunes and a bunch of other different podcast hosting sites. It's just Spotify was the one that was having problems with. So I'm bringing it back to Spotify. It's just taking a couple days. So in the meantime, I'm going to record a podcast about the Vandenberg UFO event, the big red square that happened in 2003, because this has come up in recent news again, and I figure why not? Let's look back into it and see what really happened and see what Vandenberg Air Force Base is really all about. A lot of people haven't even really heard of Vandenberg. I hadn't even really heard a whole lot about it until I did the research, but it's in California, and let me move this up here. It takes up a pretty big stretch of the West Coast, right on the ocean in Santa Barbara County. So this Air Force Base is huge by Lompoc, and what people witnessed, we'll get into what was verified and claimed and witnessed, and then we'll get into what is unverified, disputed, and unknown. So first of all, what happened? So Vandenberg Air Force Base is a base that is kind of similar in some ways to these special operations bases like Area 51, S2, Dugway, in the fact that they deal with a lot of special ops, special satellites, they deal with special aircraft, they deal a lot with ICBMs, missile test space vehicles, early warning radar, satellite tracking. Obviously, it sits on the coast, so people can see it. It's not like it's hidden like Area 51, but they do deal with classified test vehicles, exotic aerospace projects, satellites, and possibly unknown aircraft. So this is why there's a lot of lore, and it's right on the ocean. The thing about being on the ocean is, as Representative Tim Burchett, and a lot of these other whistleblowers are talking about now, is the fact that there's a lot of activity in certain spots of the Pacific that indicate that there are bases underneath the water. So when you have an Air Force base that's right on the water, you're going to have a lot of potential incidents. At least it puts it in the tracking in the area of which you would imagine there would be some events that would happen. It puts it right in the path. So this is not the first event. There are many others. And I can cover a couple of those too before we get to 2003, including some events that happened all the way back to 1964. There was an intercepted Atlas missile incident where a missile test dummy warhead was launched from Vandenberg, and while they filmed it through a telescopic camera, they noticed a UFO firing beams of light into the warhead. I think some of us have seen either this video or a video from the 80s where there was a UFO surrounding a warhead and they zapped laser beams into it. I've seen it personally, so you guys probably seen it on YouTube as well. And the guy, Dr. Robert Jacobs, was a U.S. Air Force former photographic officer, and he was told to never talk about it. So that happened in 1964. We got a cut. We have a few, just like 3 small incidents that happened before the 2003. In the 1970s, a security officer reported a spherical glowing object. Multiple objects, I should say. Multiple USAF security police patrols reported white, orange, and metallic items flying around their launch silos, the missile launch silos. So that's a big problem. You don't want anything flying around your missile silos. Some were stationary, others maneuvered at high speeds. Some reports mentioned that the objects were pacing vehicles on the base perimeter roads. So they were looking for something. And this is kind of a recurring theme, is that we have a lot of these vehicles, UFOs, UAPs, coming down, whether they look like red squares like the 2003 or they look like little tin can pie plate UFOs from the 1950s. They all seem to be interested in these nuclear bases and special operations bases, don't they? In 1982, there was a missile control center intrusion with witnesses from the missile maintenance team. A glowing disc hovered over a Minuteman missile silo, and the missile supposedly went into fault condition, which is inoperable, right? And security forces were dispatched, but the object left at extreme speed. And then one more was from the 1990s, where a radar operator tracked fast-moving objects. The objects moved at impossible speeds over the Pacific test range. Instant directional changes, which would kill people if they were actually in the vehicle. No thermal signatures matched any aircraft that they knew of at the time, and some operators nicknamed them fast movers. This has been documented in interviews, but no official reports have been released. So this is and now we get to 2003, the big one, the one that we're doing the podcast about. So this is the Red Square incident. Now, what's cool about this is it's not just one individual that saw this, but it was actually people that were on a submarine, and then there was also people on Vandenberg Air Force Base that saw this, and multiple eyewitnesses from outside of the Air Force Base as well. So there were some whistleblowers that came forward. Boeing contractors were the primary observers. U.S. Air Force security forces, which we're going to talk about. Jeff Nucitelli, Nuccelli, he was a patrolman for the security forces who collected all of the witness statements on base, which great stuff from him. Then we got Ryan Graves, who testified before Congress. He relayed the incident in 2023 to Congress during the famous UFO disclosure congressional hearing with David Grush. So, what happened? The morning sighting, this happened in the morning, a huge red glowing square the size of a football field approached from the ocean, and it hovered over a launch facility. And this is what's interesting, for only 45 seconds. But Ryan Graves talked about this. Jeff Nucitelli talked about this. And we're going to see what they have to say about it. Then it shot off over nearby mountains instantly, which witnesses stated would kill somebody if they were in that craft. There's no way. It looked like it was shot out of a cannon, according to these witnesses. Then there was a second event, a night encounter. The object returned after sunset. Well, maybe they went and had a nice lunch somewhere on Earth, huh? Reportedly, it approached security guards aggressively and then shot away. Multiple independent witnesses happened during this time, and some have claimed to have written official logs, blotters, or affidavits that later vanished. That's really interesting. That's really, really interesting. So, let's get into a little bit more about what these individuals said here. I'll play a little clip so you can hear what they had to say here. Let's play this clip. See if we can get it loud enough So it's not quiet.
In detail, the event that occurred at Vandenberg Air Force Base.
Certainly.
I've been waiting for this for seems like my whole life, and I literally fell out of my chair.
They observed a very large red square, estimated to be almost the size of a football field, approach the base from the ocean and hover at low altitude over one of the launch facilities.
The radio transmissions start to pour in.
As it became closer and closer to our position, it stopped and hovered right over the coastline. There's no propulsion systems, no lights, no audible sounds, and it just hovered there.
And then just all hell broke loose.
There was a lot of chaos.
These are people I'd spent years with, and they're not people that are easily frightened or intimidated. And they were terrified, and they were screaming for help over the net.
This object remained for about 45 seconds or so before darting off over the mountains.
It just shot away up the coastline. It seemed like 1,000,000 miles an hour, like it was shot out of a cannon, and then it was gone. I mean, personally, I can't explain it. I've never seen anything like it in my life. The way it hovered, to make no sound, to have no propulsion system. Our aircraft don't do that.
So there you go. So that's just like a little teaser trailer for a show called UFOs Investigating the Unknown. I couldn't tell you which episode it is or anything like that. But there was a few of the individuals. Ryan Graves was on there, Jeff, and a few other individuals as well. So let's talk about this. Let's pull this back up. I want to get the details correct here. So multiple independent reports. According to this event, it was not a one single person hallucination, but multiple independent observers. Yeah, I want some detail here. Give me some detail here. So Jeff Nussatelli, he's actually got a photo of him online here from 2023. He did a podcast, and he doesn't look that old. He looks maybe about 55 or something like that. He's got huge hands. So he talked about the fact that this is 20 years, well, it was 20 years ago in 2023. Isn't it interesting that when information gets released, it usually has to wait 20 years before it can be released? So that's kind of what they're talking about here. And he was stating that 20 years ago, this October in 2023, and that 2025 have been 22 years, military contractors who worked for Boeing reported a gigantic floating red square over 100 yards long, hovering in the morning air over the launch site at Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. I don't think they were there to buy some vans or skate on the skate parks or swim in the ocean. The Erie 2003 event first exploded into public view in July when they had the 2023 congressional hearing. Now Jeff says this is not a joke. These are contractors with top secret clearances. He says 2 of his fellow U.S. Air Force police patrol officers got buzzed by the UFO. In my mind, that means it went right over their head, right? I mean, like, literally. And that means it was intelligent, obviously. And this thing's a red square, okay? Do you know of any vehicles that we have that look like red squares? No. Ours are aerodynamic, not red squares. Even the supposed, what do they call it? 8-gon? Mike, the Marine who just talked about, Mike Batista, I think it was, talked about the fact that, or no, Michael Herrera, talked about how he saw this 8-gon, octagon type ship in Indonesia. It didn't look like a red square. Who's flying a red square? We've heard of triangles with red lights on them and things like that, but who's flying a red square around? That's what I want to know. Sorry, I guess I'm fighting off something. So, Jeff, as he was going around the base, said, I'm getting ready to jump back in the car, and then all hell breaks loose over their radio. There was people, because you got to remember, Jeff is like he's the officer. He's the one people report to. So he's getting all the information for all around the base, all of the information coming across his net, aka his radio, and people are screaming, "It's coming right at us! It's coming right for us! Now it's right here!" And he said it was hard to hear because they were all screaming at once and they were all scared out of their minds. Well, imagine if something like was flying at you and it started off slow, but then it's getting bigger. It's getting bigger. Oh my God, it's right here. You know what I mean? Like how fast you have to respond to a craft that can fly at speeds that we can't even, could never, well, not never, but we definitely don't have and might not be able to comprehend. Only in movies could we comprehend something coming at us so quickly that you wouldn't even have time to respond. Your brain is miles behind the quickness and the speed of these craft. So, he said that he had high confidence in the half a dozen fellow USAF Air Force police who witnessed the giant red UFOs flying by. He said these guys are trained observers. And he actually was talking to Brian Graves, who is, he's founded the Americans for Safe Aerospace, which is devoted to resolving flight safety concerns around these unidentified aerial phenomena, the UAPs. He said they're posted out there 24/7. They know what the aircraft look like. They know what fishing boats look like. I didn't feel like they were jumping the gun at all because there was a UFO out there. Jeff said that there was they were driving out to SLC-4 or Slick-4, which is a launch site, which is the launch site that this thing was hovering over as the UFO reports started pouring in. And this is his quote. He said, "This is all playing out on the radio as the dispatchers are communicating with them, trying to get them more information, and it's just utter chaos." You got to remember, UFOs, radios, two-way radios only go one way. So if you're waiting for somebody to finish up their statement so you can ask them a question, you're waiting, and this is all happening in real time, and it's 45 seconds is all that this thing is there for. And think about how your brain has to process what you're seeing. You're trying to describe exactly what you're seeing so that you can get this information up the chain of command. Chain of command is now trying to visualize what their people on the ground are seeing, and now they're trying to say, okay, is this enemy or foe? Is this something we need to fire on? Do we need to scramble? Who do we contact? What's the chain of command now? Do we have to contact SecDef, Secretary of Defense, or do we just contact our immediate upper chain of command? And what's the next steps? And do we need more information? And all this is going on in the span of 45 seconds. I mean, think about how fast that happens and how fast you need to transfer that information. And the fact that this isn't just some base where they have trucks or Hummers or anything else. This is a base where they have warheads, Minutemen warheads, and missiles that were repurposed for a new missile defense system. So Jeff stated that he was looking at this thing, and he said it was like a flattened square. It was not a cube. You think of like a cube. It was like a flattened square, and if it was the size of a football field, think about how many people can fit inside of a football field. A lot of people. So they continued to kind of discuss this a little bit. He said Jeff believes that there was at least 80 people that he spoke with that knew this happened, plus the contractors and the other cops that actually saw it with their own eyes, and he's actively working to track them down for fresh interviews. He stated he went to work in an administrative role for the U.S. Marshals after 16 years in the Air Force, and he has also delivered what he knows to AARO, which is the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, which a lot of people don't have faith in because it's just another outfit for the Pentagon and for the government to not disclose anything, right? So I find this particular event fascinating. It doesn't. There's a picture in this article that has a beam coming down towards one of the subs that was out there in the ocean as well. I don't know if that happened. There was another whistleblower named, his last name was Best. Let me try to look him up here real quick. Vandenberg UFO. And let's see if we can get him up here as well. Because it's important to get all the info if we can. But let's see if we can find him. There's Jeff. There's Ryan. And okay, so Grant Best was a U.S. Air Force veteran who came forward on a recent podcast and talked about how he also saw this red square, and I'm assuming he must have been on base, not on a sub. But he did talk about like a Loctite door or a watertight door. So I don't. Maybe he was on a sub. Do Air Force people go on subs? I don't know. Maybe he was on a sub that was just off the coast. But he said he saw it, and he was up there with a couple officers. It was like only 4 people that were up on the deck that he was on, and he stated that this thing made no sound. He said that there were some helicopters that were going out, and they were making sound, especially the Chinooks. Or Chinooks, I don't know how you say that, but they're double bladed. They have 2 blades on them, and I've seen them. They've gone over my house before. I'm out in the country, and those things. You could tell the difference between a regular rotor and a double rotor or a double blade. I guess even a regular helicopter has 2 rotors, right? Because it has to have one in the back. But yeah, man, holy shnikes, those things are loud. I mean, they like rumble in your chest when they go over you. It's not like a helicopter where you're watching it and it just goes over and you're like, oh, okay, no big deal. No, these things will rumble your chest. That's how they must just have huge blades, much larger than regular helicopters. But anyway, he said that this red square made no sound. And when it took off, it went so fast that, like I said many times, nobody could survive it. So this brings up the Michael Herrera story, where he was in Indonesia. We've talked about this multiple times. He's come forward, and he was in the last Stephen Greer Disclosure Project press conference as well. He told his story, and he said that he saw the 8-gon. It's like an octagon black ship that's huge, that looks like a circle, but in geometric kind of squared off ends. And it was United States black ops that were putting shipment into this craft, and then they did lift off and they took off. And he saw the whole thing, interacted with the black ops team. They saw him, they flanked him and his squad, and they were just there on a humanitarian mission. They didn't know that these guys were there, and they let him go. They could have killed him out there, but they let him and his squad go, and they ID'd them and everything. Anyway, the point is that there are craft that take off at insane rates. He said this 8-gon is what they call it. It kind of breaks my mind when I'm thinking of an octagon. They say it's an 8-gon. I don't know, maybe it's just to break it up and make it different than an octagon. But anyway, he said when this thing took off, this thing was gone in like the blink of an eye. No rotor wash, no air flapping the palm trees around out there or whatever kind of crazy trees they got in Indonesia. None of that. No wind, no pushback, no nothing. just gone. Could you do like you would almost think you're hallucinating? You know what I mean? Because we're so accustomed to having or being around aircraft that cause so much wind disruption. And I've lived near massive airports. I've been underneath helicopters, and I've been around a ton of aircraft. And dude, the sheer amount of wind dispersion is just ridiculous, and noise. I mean, the noise is insanely loud. It's insanely loud. It's not just somebody blasting music. I mean, it's much louder than that. So for something so huge to take off, no sound. I mean, that technology is just so beyond the years that you would think that we would have. Now, supposedly, new information has also come out about 2 different species and how far advanced they are than we are. One is the Nordics, and the reports are that the Nordics are not that far advanced from us, not that far removed from our capabilities. They are only about 150 to 200 years more advanced, which seems insane considering they have craft that can travel vast distances and, you know, zero energy power and that kind of thing, or 0 point energy and that kind of thing. But the most interesting part of that, or maybe that is the most interesting part, but the other interesting part is that the second species, the reptilians, are thousands, if not millions more years advanced than we are, which is kind of problematic because they are, you know, the pains in the asses. They are the enemy, you know. So, I mean, in most cases anyway. So that's new information that's recently come out in I think that was in a Gaia episode I just watched. So that's interesting too. I mean, we've always known that they're advanced, but now we're getting some kind of idea as to how much more different species are more advanced. You know, are they closer to us? Are they not? Randy Kramer talked about how when he visited a species in the Cassiopeians galaxy, that they were only about the same, about 150 to 200 years more advanced than we were. Because of that, it makes a huge difference. Think about airplanes, right? Airplanes, you know, we went from having, you know, the Wright brothers come up with their airplane concept to being able to create a real airplane to travel the world in a matter of hours, to across countries, to over other countries, to anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world now you can travel. And then we went from that to rocket ships, to space travel. You know, within 100 years. You know, we went from not even having cars to being able to travel the moon within like 70 years, right? You know, we went from like 1900 to 1969. So now you got to imagine from 69 or 48, 47 when they crashed till now, all of the tech that we have now, we've advanced, you know, hundreds of years, maybe not more, depending on who we got our technology from. And imagine if we got technology from multiple different species, you know. Then you're talking about we have the capabilities that the Nordics don't have, because they're only 150 years more advanced than we are. So that's pretty interesting. I want to talk about. I'm gonna end this here, but in the next podcast, I want to talk about a humongous building-like ship that Emery Smith was taken out to, and there were crashed alien bodies outside of the ship and inside of the ship. But this ship was not it didn't look like a ship. It looked like a building with multiple different tiers in it. So imagine not a ship like a circle ship or a red square or a triangle or a pie plate, but an actual building that crashed out in the western portion of the United States. So we'll talk about that, I think, in the next podcast. All right, guys. Love you. Take care of yourselves. Sorry about the mishmash of the podcast going here and there, but hopefully we'll get back on track here and we'll get some more podcasts coming out. So I'm also thinking about making a brand new podcast. So that might be in the works too. I know you're saying, "Oh, come on, you guys, you can't even keep up with this one." Well, maybe I might. Maybe I might be able to. We'll just have to see what happens. All right. Well, take care of yourselves. Follow through on your hobbies and your goals and your dreams. Take care of yourself spiritually, physically, emotionally, and as always, continue to question the universe around you. Until next time, guys, take care. Lockdown Universe out. Peace.